In this video, I want to talk about changing properties in the inspector, and one aspect in particular, and that's changing properties while you are playing your game.
Oh yeah, you're going to do it. It's inevitable.
Yeah, and it's going to be painful because it's something you really shouldn't do. You can do it for testing purposes, but generally speaking, as soon as you stop playing your game, any changes you make are going to revert back to where they were prior to playing.
Yep.
And you should be aware of that and try your best not to do it if you don't mean to. Now, I've done it a few times for testing purposes, and it's been fine, but you know, I've forgotten too, and I've been working with something, and I'll be playing the game, and I'll start really tweaking and spend a while getting something to look just right, and then look up and realize I was in play mode, and that I'm about to lose all of these changes, and there's no way around that.
I've done it over and over and over again.
However, not everything is a slave to that rule. So what we're going to do is just start off by hitting play, and we suddenly jump into the game view, and here we are. I'm going to point us at this little bench here. Now, as soon as I'm looking at the bench, I'm going to hit Control-Alt-P, and that's going to pause the view, and then I'm going to jump into the game view. So we see what the player saw when we paused. Now we're in play mode, and the big thing that's giving us the indication of that. Now, hang on. Let's unpause real quick. And even if we stop playing, I do want to mention the whole interface did get darker.
Right.
So Unity is doing its best to remind you that you're in play mode because they realized that this could happen. I wanted to make sure I did get that out in the video and give credit where it's due, but it's still easy to overlook.
Yeah, it's not that much of a shift.
Yeah, I mean, if it's late and you've been working all day and you're a little tired, it's real easy to overlook the fact that you're in play mode. And so now we sit here and look at our bench, and we can move it up into the air because, I don't know, for some reason we decided we should. We could rotate it a little bit. Let's say we scale it down in X and we turn it into a little step stool, and then, hang on, let's put it back into the ground and we'll move it say a little bit closer to the fire, so now it's perfect for roasting marshmallows. That's excellent. That's the way I want this to be from now on, and now we're happy. However, as soon as I hit the play button again and then take a look over here inside my scene view, it's right back to where it was. So you don't maintain those values. And that's going to be true of most of the properties that you set here inside the inspector, especially numerical values.
But it's not all of them, is it?
It's not all of them, absolutely. Now let's take a look at some of the ones that it doesn't affect. So if we hit play, just to get us into game mode, and let's take a look at our entire campsite. And once again, I'll hit Control-Alt-P to pause the view and jump back into the game view, so that's what we're looking at. We can take a look at the main color, which is an aspect of the material applied to this camp, and this brings up the color picker. Now let's say we wanted to tint everything in our level for some reason into slightly red. Well, let's not say slightly. We're going to tint it all a very deep, over-the-top red. And then we're thinking, it doesn't really matter anyway because, we're in play mode. It's all going to go back when we're done anyhow, right? No. Once we're done playing and we rotate the view back around, notice everything has stayed red. So not all of your properties are going to click back. Generally, if it's something that kind of reaches outside the numerical values that exist specifically within the inspector, they will be maintained whether you're in play mode or not.
Right. Well, it'll kind of get confusing because you're going, oh, okay, so colors are something I can set in play mode and I'll be fine. So you go, all right, great. What else do I set colors on? Oh, well, lights. Yeah, I set colors on lights. So I can go into play mode and adjust all my colors on lights, and I'll be good to go because colors don't get reset. You'd be wrong.
That's right. And the thing about that is that the colors on the light are actually a part of that object, where here we're changing an aspect of a material which is not currently what we have selected in the inspector.
Exactly. What you see as part of the material is actually a part of a material component.
Yeah, it's something else entirely, and I don't really want you to dwell on that too much. If you take anything from this video, really the whole key of this video is to stress the importance of not changing values while you're in play mode unless you know what you're doing and you know that it's likely you're going to lose those values. You're just doing it for testing purposes. if you're relatively new to Unity, I would suggest you just don't do it at all if you can avoid it.
And it doesn't necessarily mean just things in the inspector. This problem extends a little bit further. If you actually start creating objects in your hierarchy, start dragging prefabs from project into hierarchy, you start moving stuff around, positioning it while the game is playing. The moment you stop playing, all that geometry that you created, all the prefabs that you've moved in, all of that goes away.
That's right. Now, is there anything else that you want to mention in terms of setting these properties inside the inspector? I think we're pretty much good to go. I mean, there are a lot of different types of properties. I will throw out this one little kind of general tidbit. When you are working with especially numerical values, keep an eye on your cursor, because you'll notice that you get these little tiny left and right arrows that keep popping up while you're moving around. These are to indicate that you have access to a hidden slider that you can use to change the values. So here, if I mouse over the Y letter for the Y-axis in my position transforms, and I drag to the right, I can actually slide that value up and down, and that is incredibly useful. I use that a lot, so definitely make use of that. Of course, you can punch some values in. Another quick thing I'll just kind of throw out there, a lot of these values you'll see have references to some other object. Like here, the mesh property is actually a reference to the bench mesh. And you have two ways you could change this. You'll always see these little tiny circles next to properties like this, and if you click on it, it'll open up some sort of selection window where you can select the various meshes associated with it. Or if you see a mesh you'd like to use out of the project view, you can drag and drop that right onto the property. Now in this particular case, I'm not going to demonstrate that, but it can be done. I thought I would go ahead and throw that out there. Now, with that out of the way, we have discussed all the different aspects of the primary Unity user interface that I've wanted to cover over the last several videos. So now we're going to move on from here over to some of the not quite as obvious features of the Unity interface. But before we do, I just wanted to mention that even though we've kind of gone over everything, no amount of video watching is a good swap out for practice. No replacement for practice. So please make sure you take a lot of time to use each one of these aspects of the interface and get used to how they work.
Right. Once you start playing with things and you dial in settings and you see how it works, that will really cement the concepts that we're trying to expose you to in these videos.
And as you get further and further with Unity, as you take more and more advanced classes from 3D Buzz and start looking at more advanced material, we are going to be making the assumption that you already know this stuff and that you're very comfortable with it. So, I mean, for instance, if you wanted to take part in the upcoming MMO class that we'll be offering to member-sponsor subscribers over on 3D Buzz, we're not going to be going over all this stuff again. Right. So take the time to get really comfortable with it if you'd like to take on something more advanced from us, so that you don't feel confused and you don't find yourself falling behind as we're covering the more advanced material. So with that, that is going to wrap everything up for this video. Thanks a lot.